Hello, hello. Welcome, clutter-free family to the Clarity Hotline. Let's do this. Happy Thursday. What are we in for? How are we feeling? Okay, let's pull up the questions so that you know what we're answering today. The questions are, how do I know who to hire? And how do I not turn into a shopaholic? That's in a nutshell. I'll get into the specific question when we get there. But welcome. Let's come on in. Come on in. Let's arrive. Let's be here and breathe. However you need to breathe. I'm not even going to cue you up. Just however you need to breathe to feel into the space you're in so that you can have clarity around what you're going through. Because I do believe, even though I'm answering, other questions, doesn't mean it's not going to apply to you, or you can't take some version of what I said and apply it to your life and your scenario. So, just be open. Be open to what will come. Hello, welcome. Come on in. Thank you for joining. Okay, are we still breathing? Okay, I should. And maybe take a sip of water. Is that just me? Be here. Shake off what happened earlier today. Come into the space. Come into your body. Come into your knowing, right? You know a lot, so come into acknowledging your knowing and your insight. Let that be here for you. Let that guide how we move through the questions today. So that was for me too. So thank you. I have actually a couple shout outs that I want to give. One being, you know how you just need to call mommy sometimes? Like you just need your mommy. And so you're just having one of those days and you want to call home. That is the way it's felt for me for a couple weeks. And just, calling her and hearing from her always makes it better. Like I remember, because, oh man, if you read anything about me, it's, I am like a recovering worrywart, and I stress out about things and I worry, and I've got my coping mechanisms. And when I was in college, I always called her. I called her like every single day. I always needed her to like put my mind at ease with something she had to say about what I was dealing with. And she was just always there for me, like she just always knew what to say. I do this like she's a robot, but no, it's just consistent. She's consistent. And what I really am appreciating about her lately is that there's not always time to like hop on a call and talk to her. So I'll just text her and maybe get back to her like hours later, but she still is there. She's still available. She's still like just as, helpful as she would be on the phone. She is on text. So it's kind of like I can reach out to her however I need, whatever my mind, the state of being is. And I'm just like, I just want to text and let her know I'm thinking about her. And she's just there, and it's not like she hops on the phone or interrupts because, she's got her own life. But she is like there for me in the ways that I am able to be, accessed, text or phone and mail. I could mail her and she'd probably write me back. We'd be pen pals and she would not judge it. So I really appreciate my mom. So call home, reach out to who represents that for you, and just give them a shout out. Let them know you love them. Let them know that you appreciate how they are there for you, right? In the way, because we gotta acknowledge our support people team. And if you're a mother, you know that it's all about the village, baby, like building your village of people. Not everybody's gonna be there for you as mother, but maybe just you as woman, you as parent, and all genders included, and non-binary, whatever like your outreach is, right? Your network. Just know that you've got people that love you and care about you. And sometimes, just saying, hey, thank you, goes a long way. Because the gratitude journals that we write, that's just kind of all in our own head and in our notebooks. But there is probably, you're going to feel it too, that gratitude, when you share it with the person that you're grateful for. Just let them know. Another shout out is to the YouTuber Alexa Serenoja, and she's a YouTuber. I found her. She's in the YouTube growth space and clearly trying to grow this channel, right? And it's just like, it feels like a plateau, just trying to break through and understand the algorithm, but still know me and do what I want to do and be how I want to be and not succumb to the hype. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And that's important to me, that I don't compromise in that area. And so Alexa, what I love about her, because I'm part of her free community for YouTubers trying to grow. And she, offers some good insight, but she really has a lot of heart behind what she does. And so I appreciate her honesty and like how she just really wants to help, she's got that vibe. And so when she grew really fast, So there is kind of the comparison syndrome, right? If you're trying to learn from somebody who is growing fast and you weren't there when it was like day one, then it's kind of out of context. You want to grow that fast too. But are you able to do what she did to grow that fast? If not, don't try to grow that fast. So be true to you and your lifestyle, how you want to live. And she's a mom, and so she knows where she had to sacrifice and what she had to do to be a mom and be a business owner. But she knew what she wanted, right? She had her priorities clear, front and center, and she just did what she needed to do. And she does. She has maybe I'll bring her up when we answer some of these questions, because I know a little bit about her story, hearing her in these live calls with her, and then on her channel, like, especially more of the earlier videos, like you can hear, what she did and how she did it. But anyway, I just want to say, like, if she can do it, so can you. If she can grow, so can you. Maybe not as fast as her. If she can grow, so can I. Right? And I've got to check my mindset all the time, because I can't fall into, in my personal opinion, compromise on where I want to go and how I want to get there. So it's just a constant, like, thinking about, your goals and making sure they're aligned with your vision, making sure that you're kind of walking that path. And I think a lot of it has to do too with accountability, which tomorrow's video is about accountability. So check that out. And yeah, I don't know. Anyway, she's cool. I wanted to give her a shout out because she shot me a Loom video in response to one of my questions, I think. Yeah. And it was really sweet that she took the time to kind of go above and beyond and shoot me a Zoom and expand on her answer from the live call into her, personal time. And she was like, just, hey, thinking about you, and wanted to follow up on that, make sure that was clear. And I really appreciate that. And I got a sense of her mom life too, because she wasn't in her studio. And that connected me more to her, as far as like just her being a mother. She's grinding when she has to grind. She's doing what she has to do. And then she also steps back. Like, she's on vacation this week. I'm telling her whole life story. But yeah, anyway, big shout out to her. Okay, because I do have to check myself on, I wanted to make sure that was clear what I said. I wanted to, because if you're struggling with slow growth, because a lot of, people ask, why am I growing so slow? Or I hit a plateau and what's wrong? And you see this a lot on social media. It's like, engagement down. Here's the 5 tips that boosted mine, or, here's the reason why you're not growing. Here's the reason why, whatever, you're not breaking past 15,000. So it's like, that's kind of at the forefront of these algorithms, pushing that kind of content, because the more invested in growing on that platform, the more you'll be engaged in the platform. So it's almost set up for just more followers. So if you are doing what all these people are saying, oh, grow on Instagram, if you're doing those things, then you are on the app to do those things. So, that's always in the best interest of the app if they're promoting people who are trying to grow in the space and teach others to grow in the space. So just recognize that, and just like backpedal a little bit and recognize, okay, well, if I want growth on this platform, and not just growth, but actually like I want to build a business that's true to me and true to how I want to live and true to my lifestyle and what's important to me, then, all of those are still front and center as you grow. So I just think that it helps to know what you want and be super clear on what you want so that you don't get sidetracked or distracted along the way to your goals, because like getting caught up in the follower count. And I get it. I'm there too. I get it. However, what's most exciting for me is, just the community that is forming around what I'm saying. And even after a detour about what I'm saying, those who are still along for the ride. And I recognize, losing followers and things like that, because I'm not saying exactly what I said before, but that's okay. It's okay. So the dips might happen, right? Because you're an evolving person. And so as you flow, as you go with your flow, you might lose some people along the way, right? Who want to get off on shore, and you're still going. And they like this other boat. And so they're drawn to that color boat and that big size boat and that, speed of that boat, and so they're hopping on all these other boats. You just want to make sure, are you bringing your boat along, or did you completely abandon ship? Like, where are you in the process? Don't get out of your boat, because as you start to, maybe gain momentum with the flow of your life, then you can start to add a motor, add a paddle, add somebody to steer for you, while you continue to do the most important things in your business. And that actually ties back to last week's video that dropped last week, Friday. So check that one. And anyway, I'll link to a few videos that might help with this if you're kind of in that, because I know how it feels. I know how it feels to feel like it's going so slow, but to also come back to why you're doing this, why you trust yourself to do this, what you've done before and how it will only help what you're doing now. It's kind of like, don't lose sight of those things. Okay. You'll never move faster than your mood, and your mood only goes with your mindset. It's like, you'll never move faster than your mindset, what you believe about a thing. And, the only distance you've got to close, especially think about if you hopped ship and you were no longer on your boat and you're on someone else's boat, then you've disconnected from yourself, and where your boat actually wants to be headed. And it might feel fun and feel fancy and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But soon you're going to end up on, the deck, sunbathing for the 75th day on this beautiful yacht. And you're like, what is the point of my life? Well, you might realize, oh man, I left my ship back there. Let me hop back on. Okay. So maybe I can now ditch that analogy and go back to what I want to say. So the only thing, your mindset is going to be what closes the gap between who you think you are now and who you think you have to be when you get there. So that distance, what you ultimately believe about yourself, if you don't think you're that version of that person that you see in your vision, if you don't believe inherently you've got what it takes to get there, if you don't see that, oh, I am that person and I've never abandoned myself. Like, I just always followed my bliss. I always followed my purpose, my priorities. Like, I always checked in, made sure that I was clear-headed on where I was going. Then the gap, just starts to close. Okay, I recognize the time. Let's get into the question. Maybe we'll touch back on that. But if you have any questions, let me know. Actually, this question, one of the questions that we're asking is from a follow-up question from last week. Chelsea asked, what was her question that she asked? She asked, I don't remember. Oh, she asked the question, how do I stop wearing all that hats? And she was saying here that she's following up on that. How do I know who to hire? Because I'll have to link to that episode if you didn't watch the Clarity Hotline. Yeah, if you didn't watch the Clarity Hotline from last week, then that was the first part of her question. But it led her to ask the question, how do I know who to hire? And just so you know, if you're on live with me, you can ask me the follow-up questions here and we can get into it live. So for those who didn't know her question from last week, how do I stop wearing all the hats? I went into a lot that I don't want to recap here. If you can watch that other video. I mentioned something about like, if you're wearing all the hats, you're not really operating in the CEO seat. You're kind of doing everything and then some, and so you're not spending enough time in the thing that you want to be working on this early on in your business. And so watch that. But that basically led her to be like, well, how do I know who to hire when it's time to hire somebody? Because if you do have, maybe Chelsea, you are ready to hire. Last week, I wasn't so sure. So if you're ready to start to reinvest in your business by hiring somebody, that's great. Do that. So then comes the question, how do I know who to hire? And I did want to share with you, and I pulled questions from some of my courses so that you kind of have an idea of what I do teach, just to make it easier, not reinvent the wheel. Because how can I best get into your question from wearing all the hats to knowing who to hire? Last week, to bring everyone up to speed, to stop wearing all the hats, you have to recognize the role that you're in right now, the most important thing you need to be doing right now. So we went into MIT, MVP, ATM, what was the other one? MOM. So watch that one. And then here's where it kind of gets into when you start having revenue and you get to reinvest the revenue. You want to start to reinvest in help. So to get stuff off of your plate so that you can return back to the CEO seat. So I'll share my hiring process, and this I share with all my clients. Because I started as, you can say I started as a blogger business. So I've always been in the content creation space. I know I want to be here. So I started out as a blogger, then a guest blogger. So this is all growing, right? And all the while I'm coaching and consulting and course creating on the side of that. And right, everything, there's always been some through line into working with me from what I put out. So blogger, guest blogger, interviews. Then I would say I wrote a book. So that parlayed into a book business, then the podcast, and then all kind of that stuff still going on. And then coaching, just focused on coaching for a long time. And then moved into memberships and things like that. So still course creation, community creation. So been doing this for a long time. So now I'm pivoting to just, coaching, and, course creation and working with people who want to do the same thing that I did to start. So the reason why, it helps to know like where you're headed is because there's always going to be like the next step up, right? You see your staircase, you just need one step, one foot in front of the other. And then as you go, you light the way of your staircase and you're climbing. So, and it's going to look different for everybody. And that's the beautiful thing. The most beautiful thing is that your business is 100% different from someone else's business. So if you look at someone else's business and you're like, oh, I love that business, I'm going to do what they did to start that kind of a business. I guarantee you, if you look at what you really, really want, your business is different from that person's business. So you want to recognize where you want to go, how you want it to look. It's not going to look exactly like hers. It's not going to look like that. So as you build your business, recognize that I want to always be me. And what about that business can I take from it and apply to mine? And what can I leave that's not really aligned? I won't even get into it, but take a second to think about what about her business isn't what you want, so that you're not just kind of blindly chasing some version of what you think you want. You actually know what you want. And ultimately, we only know what we want based on how we know we want to feel. So basically, your vision always contains within it a vibration. So you will have a vision for your life, and the main thing that's going to keep you is following the vibration. Keep you aligned is following the vibration of how you want to feel. Good, abundant, secure, happy. You know what I mean? And so see how we start to chase those feelings, and sometimes they're externally given to us. We think that we're getting it from the outside in, when all the while it was just kind of our connection to clarity and our vision. And so we understood like the vibration that we're after. And the more distracted and onto a different boat you are, the more you're going to get disconnected from that vibration that you want to achieve, that you're following, that you're listening to, that you're watching out for. You want to be following that. And so when you do that for your business, you'll know who to hire. For me, the hiring process for a content creator is definitely somebody to help with content management. So first hire content manager, because you want to be able to get some things off of your plate, not necessarily a social media manager, but basically taking the work that you've cultivated and all of this stuff and repurpose your stuff, or help you repurpose some of your prolific work and put it out there into other platforms. Because you trying to do that yourself and be all on different platforms is diluting the message. And your focus is the message first. So you focus on message, then the message gets to spread by who you hire first. And I talk about this in the leverage factor. So if you are starting to kind of siphon off different things that you are responsible for to other people and specialists in their area, then you will see your growth go faster, because leveraging is a 10x to the 10x, it's growth to the 10x power or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so it's like you start to figure out where you can leverage. Even guest blogging is leveraging other people's audiences and bringing them over to my camp if they're interested in what I'm saying. So all of that has grown my business and my reach. It's like, so content management and then I don't know, you can start with a VA sooner than a content manager, or not. You can even delay a VA, but I know that some businesses are different. So it's like, swap these. And I'm telling you this from a content creation business. So tap into what you want to do and who do you want to be, what do you want to be known for? And understand what that message needs from you, and that'll help you start to hire as you go. The VA could help with, the virtual assistant can help with, personal things, checking email. If you're feeling like the bottleneck is maybe email, customer support, then a VA for customer support and email and management, community management, that is a great next hire. Maybe even your first hire. If not, tech. Tech is actually a really good first hire. Hiring tech, AI, and things like that to do some of the heavy lifting of, sharing your content. So schedulers, social media planner, schedulers, things like that. It's kind of like you put it in play, and maybe that tech takes that piece of work and spits it to, other places, 5 different other platforms. So that's your content manager, right? If you're satisfied with that, if you feel like that's enough, your next hire after that might be an actual person. But it's like, okay, well, fill in for tech. And then if there's AI, I know there are AI apps out there that might be your VA in that way. So notice how they're trying they recognize what people need, especially solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, content creators, people basically, in the field of starting something from nothing and needing support and building websites and things like that. It's like you need more people, you need more ambassadors, right? And that's how you grow. That's your 10x factor. You need ambassadors for you, people referring you, people sharing your work, right? Why is there a share button on Instagram? Why is there a share button on, why is there a share button on YouTube? But, different email and all that stuff. Share it to your website, things like that. So all that to say, let's see, can I come back to what all that means? Notice how when you're clear on what you want, you're not just following someone else's rubric. You are creating your own lane. You're supplementing your work for someone else's work. So what they specialize in, what they love to do. So you get to leverage someone else's passion and think about, wow, what a growth factor that is. They're actually passionate about doing this work. So absolutely hire them, put them in place to carry out their mission while you're carrying out yours, and you guys are doing it kind of side by side. So that's kismet, right? It's like the best hires, are like that. And, they're with you for the season and, see what happens next. But it always is good synergy in when you hire in that way. At least they've got it. There's so much to hiring. That's a whole video in itself. Because you don't want to hire you're going to make wrong hires. You don't want to hire the wrong person, but you will have some bad hires. And, you just, not that they're bad people or whatever. You just might not really know what you want. And so you're hiring somebody and you're putting them in place, maybe without really knowing why you need them. So that's the only reason, right? It's kind of wrong for you right now. Or they're not at the right stage of development in their own business to kind of match what you need, and you are paying them. So it does really matter. It does boil down to that, what you need, right? And how they can, deliver on that. So anyway, all that to say, there's a content creation business, right? If you want to be known as a content creator, if you want to be known as a coach, if you want to be known as a consultant, a corporate consultant, right, is different than consulting other small businesses. If you want to be in corporate Fortune 500 level, then there's kind of like this corporate dynamic. And that's a different conversation. That's a different approach, different positioning for sure, different marketing, but only slightly, right? Only slightly is it different. It all will be made clear when you're clear. And that's the best time to take action, is when you are clear on what you need. When you're clear on what you need because you know where you want to go, hiring is a lot easier. So, okay. So Chelsea, I want to know if I'm answering your question, because you might have a follow-up question. Like, this is a follow-up. So I want to treat it with, I want you to feel, I'm going to link a few other videos in the description that might help you get some context a little bit about what we're talking about. But ultimately, we want to grow in the areas that we need to be growing in order to climb our own staircase, to climb our own mountain, not someone else's. And the minute that somebody does feel off, who you might be watching or listening to, and even hiring, is a sign that something's disconnected. So, of course, interview who you think you need to hire, get a feel for what they could offer you, and does it fully align with what you actually need? Or do you need to go back to the talent pool and see, like, who else is out there that can really help me here? And you know what? This is a plug for slow growth, because if you are moving too fast, which, sometimes we do, and that's fine. There are seasons of slow growth and maybe seasons of very fast, like I'm in the trenches grinding day to day, and it's like growing, and I'm plugging the holes as fast as I can. But to plug the holes even faster and even more efficiently really does require knowing the breadth of your work, knowing the scope of your vision and kind of where you're going, because some holes don't need to be plugged. Some holes aren't that serious and important. And when you kind of know in your CEOC what is the most important thing to be focused on, then you can plug the right holes with the right people, right? And so I do feel like, unless I really know your business, it's hard for me to help you intuitively gauge what is first. What's your first hire? Or what's your next hire? Because we do have to kind of sit with what's next for you. What's now and what's next? What's currently going on? What are you liking and not liking? Is it what's aligned and not aligned? What's disjointed in your business? And what's truly connected to your soul and the purpose for your life, And then it's like, okay, well, let's get rid of this and let's double down on this. And this is where to start to reinvest the money. And so just be careful when you're following somebody else's plan and they're reinvesting their money in a certain way, be it to paid ads, for an example. I don't know. Just think about that. I would, I'm curious, what your customer journey looks like, what your funnel looks like, what your revenue is at, before you try paid ads. So, because paid ads is a hire too. That's a hire. That's you reinvesting in the growth of your business. So that is what any hire should be about, is helping you be in more places at once, do more things, have more hands, right? Grow faster in the direction of your dreams. And we're going to have momentum at our back. We're going to feel the drive, right? Because we're driven by momentum and passion and purpose. We're driven by that. And sometimes we're driven by our distractions. So we could be distracted and driving headfirst into a distraction. Granted, everything works out in your favor, right? If you believe it. So recognizing that will we'll wrap this whole question up for you. Recognizing that everything, if you believe everything's for a reason, you answered your own question. So just do what you think is best, see how perspective and mindset really does matter too. So it's like, hopefully that helped. If you have some follow-up questions, please let me know. I will share one last thing, Chelsea, because I do like to try to think of where your question's coming from. And I would say that in the beginning, for me, I definitely made some wrong hires. Oh man, hands friggin' down, made some wrong hires. And like look back and I'm just like, oh, what were you doing? And I mean, everything worked out, right? Everything helped me get where I am. And I guess in a way bolstered what I was doing at the time in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not as great as it could have been, but I think I recognized it when it was like I was trying to grow my platform before my profit. I was trying to grow like in volume of eyes before, because that was kind of the name of the game. Especially when you're beginning, it's like, oh, everybody, you're going to be like, well, how can I grow so that I seem substantial and legitimate and credible? Well, that's for social media, for some of these platforms, it's going to be the follower count, or at least that's what we think. And so it's kind of like we want to grow in numbers on our platform and volume of eyes, but it's not what we're maybe spending in attention and time and money and energy and even emotional turmoil, right? The reckoning that comes with like focusing on that external validation versus kind of trusting you're on the right path. There's it's a little bit, one road is a little more tumultuous than the other. And when you're focused on like platform and external validation and that kind of stuff, instead of kind of matching your expenditure there in growth with what's coming back to you in profit, revenue, money coming in, cash in, then I feel like you're doing yourself a disadvantage. You aren't focused on the right things, because soon your boat's going to have holes. You're going to not be able to plug them. You're not going to know which hole to plug first. That will mean you get to your destination, right? It's like some holes you try to plug, you don't see the big, huge hole in the back, this gash on the side that's like really letting in gushes of water to the point where you're kind of losing your runway. You're not able to go any more distance because you didn't plug that big one back there. You're kind of you're looking at all these other things because that's what you think, well, that's what maybe other people are doing. So anyway, I would say the minute you can recognize that and switch, everything will change. That's because that was the trigger for me, recognizing profit, because that's how a minimalist entrepreneur, plug for my club, that's how an entrepreneur stays afloat. That is the belief around being able to keep going, right? The distance to your goals and not getting a job, not having to go back to a 9-to-5 or borrow, beg, steal. It's like you are focused on the things that you grow as fast as your profit allows you to grow, not your debt. Ooh, that. Okay, so here, Chelsea, this is how we'll wrap it up. Recognize that how you grow, you want to grow more by your profit, not your debt. So you don't want your debt to do the heavy lifting of your growth. You want your profit to lift you. So the faster you can make more profit, the faster you'll grow. So focus on profit. Okay, Lily asks, I'm worried I'm turning into a shopaholic because everything I want, I just go on Amazon. How funny. I just go on Amazon and find it, and now I find myself always shopping. I can't stop shopping. I don't want it to turn into a problem for me financially. So that is that's a good point, especially, yeah, I mean, Amazon is so attractive for the ease of it, the ease of getting something that you want. What a dangerous hole that is, right? It's like, don't pay to buy stuff faster. Don't pay for the privilege of getting stuff faster, like Amazon Prime. Do you have Amazon Prime, Lily? Not only that, I mean, you know, don't want it to turn into a problem for you financially. What about just like spatially? Clutter in your space, right? It's like our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. Sometimes we order more than we can actually fit. And it's like, whoa, I have all these leftovers. And the more leftovers you have, you know, unless you're meal planning or whatever, you know, even you're using those strategically, right? You're going to have excess at some point and waste. And so, you know, you definitely want to put some barriers between you and satisfying some of your urges, some of your shopaholic urges. Like if shopping is you trying to plug a hole. Oh man, this is all tying in. If shopping is trying to fill a void in your life, then, and you know, your means of getting past the pain is to pay your way out, then, you know, you're going to always find yourself shelling out more and more and more. And that kind of actually brings us back to that debt. Like, don't live on debt. I don't know if that applies here, but I guess it does in the way that, you know, if you're worried that it's going to be a problem for you financially, then, you know, maybe it already is, or maybe you've seen signs of it being a problem. Shopping a lot. Chasing things to feel better. So that's why I would say, you know, put some barriers on how easy it is for you to shop. If that means, you know, you turn off Prime, you remove your saved credit card information on the app, you don't save for later, you know, things like that, or you wait a day or two before you're actually clicking buy now, then you can start to, you slow down enough to recognize, well, where is this purchase coming from? Why am I buying this? I don't know. Because, and maybe if you do put it in the cart, you still, you know, wait 2 days before you purchase, because you can recognize, like, do you really need it? Do you have the space for it? Do you even really want it? Maybe it inspired you to see that you already own it. You already own something like that. You already have a dress like that. You already have an appliance that does that exact same thing. You just haven't attached the piece yet that you have sitting around. You know, like, or, you know, more things do a lot more than maybe we give them credit for. Our phones do a lot. So I know people whose phone is their computer. They don't have a computer. They aren't on laptops often, or they aren't on desktops often. They aren't on work computers because, you know, they're just kind of go, and they don't really need a computer. So everything's on their phone. And that is, somebody who's kind of, well, I don't know, different lifestyles. You can have that be the case where you're just really on your phone doing everything. But, it does help to have a computer at some point. Where am I even going with that? I'm just saying, slow down. So slow down on purchasing. Find ways to put things in your way before you're, shelling out the cash. Because I do think, obviously there's like programs for shopaholism. So if you feel like, you've turned this pain into a problem for yourself, then, you can seek people to help you through, to whatever other things they would suggest for you to kind of curb some of your spending. Because I don't know, we only have, if we bought everything we wanted, I mean, can you imagine everything that comes to our minds? Can you imagine buying those things all the time, every time? It's like, it would just, there's not enough life to live, to do it all. We have like these aspirations, and there's so many things on the market that would fulfill that aspiration, that would make that aspiration come to life, but maybe you don't have enough space for it. So slow down even on the aspirational clutter, all the stuff all the supplies you're going after to maybe go down the path of, oh yeah, I want to make clothes. Well, aspirational clutter would be you buy the sewing machine, you buy fabric, yards of fabric, buttons, right? Patterns online, and then you just like sit down and you're overwhelmed by everything you bought, versus maybe just like, I want to sew, and taking a needle and thread and trying to stitch a hole on your jacket, or cut something out and just making something for fun out of something that you already own and don't want, right? I know, even that's actually a niche inside of fashion, but enrolling in fashion school, right? It's like, right? They pace out their program over 4 years. So it's like, why don't you space some of those impulse buys out with, some skill building and some knowledge attaining and some soul searching, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't need the sewing machine yet, because I realize I would just rather draw the patterns and take them to a seamstress to sew for me. I don't ever need to touch a sewing machine. Maybe you realize that about yourself. You're more the visionary. You're not the actual, seamstress. I mean, they're fashion designers too, but you're not actually taking the pattern, cutting the fabric and, sewing things. Even though that's actually cool to know too, right? But maybe you don't want to go that route. I don't know, but see how it all matters, about where you are in your life, where you are in your lifestyle, so that you just kind of, you stay in pace with how fast you can go. Don't outgrow yourself, right? With stuff. Don't outgrow yourself with stuff. Say, be true to what you can afford. Be true to how you want to live, right? Remember the vibration that you want to feel. Recognize your priorities, and those priorities will change, but recognize what that priority needs from you right now, not 10 years from now, right now, right? So see how now some expenses get to be delayed. You can delay gratification on, repainting the house. You can delay gratification on that. It's not a must have right now. Maybe your other priorities is, doing work inside the house. or, I don't know. I could go on and on. But hopefully that helped, answered that question. And if you have any follow-up questions, please, hit me up on clarityhotline.com. And I will also share a link to the Leap to Launch Accelerator if you are interested in some of what we were going through and you need some more clarity on where you're headed, what your vision is, and how to kind of align with that, with who you hire, where you're going, what's next for your business, what are your MITs, your MVPs, your MOMs, your ATM, what does all that look like? I'm enrolling now for the Leap to Launch Accelerator, so the next class is getting enrolled for. Thanks. Hi guys for coming on. So yeah, check that out. You can learn more about that in the description. And then join me for the next Clarity Hotline Thursday, every week, 12 noon Pacific. All right, clarityhotline.com. Peace.